Hey, this is Jazz, the podcaster, and I'm coming back to you with another episode of Let's Talk About It. So, today's episode, we're going to talk about mental health in the prison system, or even in the jail system, county jails. For some reason, they don't take that serious. I know that they do med call in jail, but this guy that I talked to, he deals with depression or whatever, and he puts in referrals. Well, I guess in the jail system, they have to put in referrals in order to get seen by a therapist or to have medication changes, or to switch out medications or dosages or whatever. And he said that he would be doing it like 3, 4 times, like just keep putting in requests, keep putting in requests. And he says it's either was denied or, the chief or whoever, or the CEOs, just basically didn't waste time with it, or the message never got to the nursing staff in order to switch medications or to do therapy. And I'm wondering, why is that? Like, if I understand, yes, they did stuff they're in there for the things, the crimes that they commit. Yes, I understand it. But that doesn't mean that they should be treated less than, or they should have less resources in order to help them cope and maintain while they're in there. Especially for people that deal with mental illness, such as schizophrenia or bipolar, PTSD. Like I said, they do med call, or for the ones that have HIV. I guess those are the first ones to get med call. But like I said, what if somebody has anxiety or depression? I mean, they need medication too. And if y'all are ignoring their basic needs while they're in jail, I don't think that that's fair. Because, I mean, at the same time, yeah, they did something bad, but that don't mean that you should disregard them based off of their health, their mental health, and physical health. Because, I mean, if they need the medication or if they need therapy and they want therapy, why not give it to them? Why is it such a hard task to complete? Just write the referral, give it to whoever, and it should get back to the nursing station. There's no reason as to why nobody in the jail county system or within the prison system should have to beg for medications or to even be seen by a psychiatrist. And even sometimes when they even put in requests, that request could take weeks, maybe even a month or so before it's even answered. Or 9 times out of 10, an inmate can fill out a request and it just goes on deaf ears or it falls through the cracks. And then they don't get the message. And what happens then when you have an inmate that flashes out or that has an episode? What do you do in that situation when you're in the prison system? Or for someone that's locked down, 24 and 1, 23 and 1, then what? Those type of people need therapy, I would think, especially if you're on a 23 lockdown and you only get out for an hour. Yes, that will drive you stir crazy. Yes, that will give you mental health problems and mental health issues and loneliness. Yeah, and it's so much within the prison system and the jail system to it doesn't make sense. And a lot of things are slipping through the cracks, and it's not fair. Because, like I said, just because they did a crime that they committed, and they're being, rejuvenated from it or rehabilitated from it by serving their time, that don't mean that their needs should not be met as a prisoner or as an inmate. Because, I mean, they need help too. And I mean, to be honest, in my opinion, basically when you get out of jail, or prison, like I said, it's a whole new world for them. They have men that's in there or women that's in there that's been locked up for 20, 30, 40 plus years in prison. And when they went in, it wasn't the same way from when they came out. When they went in, they didn't have all that technology stuff. They didn't have all that therapy and medications and stuff. Now, whenever they get out and they see that the world has changed around them, it's it's a mind fuck because they don't know what to do because they've been institutionalized for so long and being behind bars and behind four solid concrete walls for so long. When they get outside in the real world, they don't know what to do. And honestly, like I said, in my opinion, they don't have enough resources for inmates that's like that suffer with PTSD, that suffer with depression, that suffers with anxiety, that can cause mental illnesses. There's not enough resources for them. And I'm wondering why. And even with veterans, it's the same exact way. They could go fight for our country, and Iraq or Afghanistan did 1 or 2 terms, maybe 3 in there, and they've seen a lot of stuff. And when they get out of the military or honorable discharge and was released from the military, now they have severe PTSD. And instead of reaching out and giving them the resources that they need, such as therapy, medications and stuff, they're on a waiting list. Same thing with inmates. They're on a waiting list to be called. And it's if you be called. That's if they call your name. Or send you to a rehabilitation program for you to get better. Or, like I said, medications or therapy or counseling. And they wonder why people are, suicidal once they get out. Because they don't know what to do. And especially with, with prisoners and people that served in the military, they have a lot of trauma and a lot of PTSD due to the stuff that they saw that traumatized them. They had, people that passed away in front of them. They've had family members die, and they were just stuck in jail, and there's nothing that they could do. Or they've had their child passed away, and they won't even let the inmate out to even go to the child's funeral or their parents' funeral if their parents passed away. And I'm not understanding why is the justice system and the prison system so inhumane when it comes to dealing with people that did crimes, and when it comes to inmates. Why is the system so inhumane? Why don't y'all care? Y'all need to care, and y'all not caring is what's the problem. That's where the issue lies at. Y'all are not caring. Because there's no possible way that if somebody lost a baby or lost their mom or their dad and they can't go to their funeral and they've already been sitting there for 10 plus years, 15 years and passed by, they done got older, their parents done got older, the kids that they had done grew up, they're grown now, like they know that life is passing them by and they need resources in order to help cope with that, or some type of rehabilitation center for when they get out of prison and be in society. Because usually 9 times out of 10, once you're out in society and able to go to a rehabilitation program, like I said, everything was different when they went to prison or when they went to jail versus now, years and years and years later, everything is electronic and this is that and the third, and it's all new to them, and they don't know how to deal with that. And that alone can cause anxiety because you don't know what to do. You don't know how to fill out paperwork anymore. Because what the fuck is an e-sign? E-sign where? What is a DocuSign? What is that? I've been in prison for over 15, 20 years. I don't know what that is. Like, you have to show me. Yeah, so it's basically like, they have to learn all over again. And learn a whole different life from what they were accustomed to while being detained and being incarcerated. It's a whole new life that they have to learn that they don't understand of. And that's the crazy part, is that they they need resources to help them. Because 9 times out of 10, once you get out of jail or prison, usually within 6 months to a year, they usually end up going right back to prison or jail because they didn't know how to cope with the outside world. Because the outside world is different to them now. And like I said, they don't know how to handle that. So the only thing they know how to handle and how to control is going back and doing the same crime and getting locked up again, or violating parole and getting locked up again. And now they got a routine because they're back in jail. Okay, they know at 4 a.m. is breakfast, 10, 11 a.m. is lunchtime, and they know pill call at what time, they know lights out at what time. Like, it's routine for them. But when they got out, they struggled. They couldn't find a job. They didn't have counseling. They didn't have therapy resources. They didn't have medication resources to deal with the PTSD that they had dealt with and saw people passing away in prison, or even, like I said, their loved ones passing away. And their lives just passed away while they were in there. And so did their family members. And they don't know how to cope with that. They don't know what to do with that. That's an out-of-body experience for them. And they need resources in order to help them navigate stuff like that when they do get out and are released from jail or from prison. And they don't have a lot of, like I said, resources to help them. And 9 times out of 10, it's sad, but they end up right back in prison or jail because it's routine for them. That's what they know. That's what they're familiar with. That's what they were familiar with for the last 10, 15 years of their life. That's all they know. So when they get out into the real world, they don't know what to do. And like I said, for me, I don't think that it's fair. I don't think that it's fair. They need to have better resources for them, so that way they can learn to adapt to a new scenery, to a new world that they didn't even know existed because they were locked up. They was institutionalized for so long. They didn't know that their world existed out there. And it does. And it's like, how do you handle that? How do you even talk about that? Like, my world was one way when I got locked up in the 70s or 80s. Now it's like, mid-2000s. I didn't did a bit of 20, 30 years in prison. That's all I know. I don't know nothing else. I didn't see the majority of my family members, like, pass away. Like, I've been here for a long time. And it's like to throw somebody out there in society to where everything is electronic. Nothing looks the same no more. Food prices is high. Inflation. It's hard to find a job. You got to stay on top of parole or probation. And if you don't, you get locked back up again. So it's kind of like a catch-22. It's kind of like you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like, I don't know. But like I said, to me, it doesn't make sense. Because people in the outside world, the ones that actually have disabilities, they get more resources than the people that are incarcerated. And I don't get that. I don't get that. People that are disabled on the outside, they could get their rent paid for a year. They could get their utilities paid for a year. They can get counseling and therapy and the medications that they need for a lifetime. And like I said, inmates don't get that. They have to write a referral or a request form just to see if they could even talk to a therapist, or write a request form just to see if they could get on that medication and switch the ones that they were on off. Or they might just cut them off just off completely, which is insane to me. I don't, like I said, I never understood the justice system. I never understood how they operate in jail or prisons. And at the end of the day, yeah, these people made a mistake. Yeah, these people did a crime that they committed, and they admitted that they did it. They admitted, yes, that served their time for that. But that don't mean that they should be treated inhumane like animals. or like psych patients that's just locked in a room 23 hours a day, and you're only allowed to get out for 1 hour, and you're back in your room again staring at those four concrete walls for another 23 hours. That will drive anybody mentally insane, literally. That's like locking you in your bedroom for 24 hours a day with nothing in your bedroom but just a bed. A bed, a blanket, no TV, no music, no nothing. Nothing. No clothes, no dressers, no blinds. You might get a window, you might not. And you gotta sit in that room for 23 hours a day. And they're only let out for an hour. What would you think that would do to your mental health if you were in that situation? If somebody locked you in a room and the lock was on the outside, so therefore you couldn't get out. So if they lock their door from the outside, you stuck in there and you can't get out. How you think that would play an effect on your mental health if that happened to you? I don't know. I guess for me, I look at things different. I see things different, and I question a lot of stuff, because these are some topics that, people are not addressing, and they're not talking about it enough, for me, in my opinion. And it should be talked about. It should be talked about. Because like I said, even though they committed a crime, that doesn't mean that they should be treated such way or any way, or having somebody referral on a piece of paper, and then you gotta wait months or weeks down the line to even for the request to be answered. And that's if it get answered. It might just have slipped through the cracks and thrown in the trash, or just forgotten about. And which is sad. Because what if they ended up hurting themselves? And those referrals were a cry for help, and they ignored it. Then what? Who's at fault here? The prison? The judicial system? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, y'all tell me y'all thoughts on the episode of Let's Talk About It. Yeah. Y'all give me y'all thoughts and y'all feedbacks and y'all comments, and tell me what y'all think from y'all perspective of how the judicial system and the prison system treat inmates when it comes to mental health. Well, alrighty. This is Jazz the Podcaster, and I will be back with another episode of Let's Talk About It. And thank y'all for listening. I appreciate y'all.